Kia ora, good evening. The Canterbury rebuild could have economic benefits for Southland, with local businesses today encouraged to look at what they could be supplying the rebuild. Sarah Bedford explains.
Southland businesses could be helping with the Christchurch rebuild without leaving the region. That was the concept put forward at the Southland Supply Initiative presentation in Invercargill this morning. Venture Southland Chief Executive Paul Casson says Southland can contribute to Christchurch without losing skilled tradespeople.
The initiative has really been developed to encourage businesses in Southland to stay in Southland and actually supply the componentry and fixed fittings to Christchurch as part of the Christchurch rebuild.
He says opportunities are broader as well.
So there's building, there's contracting, there's trusses, there's construction, there's project management, there's administration as well. So not everything will be administered from Christchurch, so there could be opportunities for administration, management and business as well, which could be relocated in Southland.
He says the economic benefits for Southland would be sizeable and seen in a number of ways.
The economic benefits that Southland could see would be around increased household earnings. We would also see a resilience in the economy with regards to people being able to spend more. We would actually have more jobs, we would say, and also training opportunities for our young people and also people seeking employment. So if business is confident in the work that they do get from Christchurch, or the componentry part of it, they will take on more staff.
Canterbury Employers Chamber of Commerce Chief Executive Peter Townsend says Christchurch needs help but doesn't want to take more people.
What we're trying to do is build scale to assist in the Christchurch rebuild by using capability in Southland that remains in Southland but builds componentry or service sector type inputs from here into Christchurch. So we don't have the capacity in Christchurch to accommodate people that will be required for the rebuild, and we don't have the resource capability. So it is about how we gear up the rest of New Zealand to assist us.
He says demand is just starting and the rebuild could benefit the economy of the entire South Island.
We know that the scale of what we've got ahead of us in Christchurch is beyond what we can handle, so it's an issue of getting the timing right and then getting the resource capability right so that we can assist to build the economy of the South Island in the context of rebuilding Christchurch.
Today's meeting drew 88 people from 65 businesses. Mr Casson says the next step is a feasibility study and the formation of stakeholder groups. He says it's likely to be at least a few months before demand sees Southland sending supplies to Canterbury. Sarah Bedford, South Today News.
And Sarah Bedford spoke to Canterbury Employers Chamber of Commerce Chief Executive Peter Townsend about the state of the economy in Christchurch.
Well, economically we're holding up really well. I mean, I know because I'm a membership-based organisation, we've got 3,000 companies that are members of ours. We've had almost no companies slip away from us, so that the company retention in Christchurch has been really, really good. FPOS transactions are trading at about 97% normal, and exports through the Port of Lyttelton are up between 15 and 20% year on year. So overall really good. I guess the other thing that's really important in that context is that we are going to be the beneficiaries of an enormous amount of insurance money that we have to lock into our city.
Now, there were some recent stats that have come out that have shown Christchurch's economy has shrunk by about 10% following the big three quakes. How is that impact being felt?
Well, immediately post the quakes, that's right. There was a lot of contraction. I mean, there were a lot of businesses that just simply couldn't do business. And you might recall that we had 6,000 businesses inside our 4 avenues that just had to cut and run. But what we found is that most of those businesses, in fact, almost all of those businesses have reinvented themselves. The normal churn rate in Christchurch for businesses is 11.2%. In other words, 11.2% of businesses go out of business every year, various reasons. Over the past 12 months, it's been 11.6%, so almost no change. And what we've seen is that we've seen a marked recovery in economic activity underpinned by strong regional growth, and we expect that to continue as the rebuild really gets into gear. So this isn't about business attrition, this is about business opportunity.
What kind of economic recovery are you expecting to continue to see?
Well, I mean, we know that there's an enormous amount of money to be spent on refurbishing and re-establishing our housing stock. Probably in total somewhere around about $20 billion, and that'll occur over the next 3 to 5 years. We know that we've got close to 2,000 commercial buildings that need to be replaced. That's a 20-year program. So you're going to see a lot of activity in Christchurch in infrastructure, housing and commercial buildings from now through to the next 20 to 25 years. And that is economic growth that is locked into our city.
What are some of the challenges?
Well, the challenges are resource. I mean, how do we do this? How do we get people to assist us to the rebuild? How do we create the sorts of relationships that we've been talking about this morning, these strong collaborative relationships? How do we get people to understand they're going somewhere new? We're not taking the city back to where it used to be. How do we make sure that people understand the timeframes that we're going to be operating in? And how we get people positively engaged in the rebuild, not standing to one side while the city is rebuilt. I mean, this is an opportunity for everyone to be positively engaged in the rebuild of what has been New Zealand's biggest ever natural disaster. We've done the pain, now we need to get the gain.
Police are investigating 2 separate serious assaults in the city over the weekend. An 18-year-old man remains in Southland Hospital with serious injuries after he was stabbed at a Beaumont Street address at about 9 p.m. on Saturday. Investigations are continuing. In an unrelated incident, a 49-year-old man was assaulted at a Hastings Street address on Saturday night. He suffered moderate injuries and 3 people were arrested in relation. Meanwhile, police are also investigating a car fire on Teviot Street at around 3 a.m. this morning. It's believed the car was taken from a nearby house and involved in a petrol theft before it was deliberately set alight nearby. After the break, the Bluff oyster season comes to a close. How has the season gone? Welcome back. The Bluff oyster season drew to a close today with the last catch of the year selling out. Barnes Oysters manager Graham Wright says his factory processed its last fresh batch of 24,000 oysters today. He says other processors have already finished. Oyster season runs until August 31st or until the quota is filled. This year the industry raised its quota to 11.5 million, having voluntarily reduced it after the oyster-killing disease Bulimia wiped out more than 1 billion oysters in Fovo Strait from 2000 to 2003. Mr. Wright says it's been a good season.
Well, it's been a really good season. The oysters have been overall very good quality, probably the best we've seen on average, for some time. And the market's been really strong. Everyone's the demand's been really good. And I think probably the most pleasing thing is that there's the fishery itself is showing really good signs. Still in recovery mode, but a little bit of an aim is still out there, but that seems to be sort of par for the cause. But overall, the fishery's showing some really good signs. So I think for the future that's the pleasing thing.
Now this year you were able to raise the quota a bit. I guess that must have been pleasing for you?
Every year we just look at the quota again. We have a TACC of 15 million. The industry obviously has reduced that over the years as a conservative approach. And things are looking promising this year. So with advice from the science and the fishermen themselves, we had a slight increase of about 15%. So it's looking really good.
What are your expectations for next season?
I think just will be the same as we've done in the past. We'll get out there next year. We'll look at starting at the same levels we've finished on this year. Reassess it. We'll have some more Bulimia survey work before we start again. Once we get the results of that, and the fishermen have had 6 weeks out and about fishing, we'll have a reassessment. And if it's good, we might have another wee increase. If it's not so good, then we might status quo or whatever. We'll just see what happens next year.
Salvage work on the stricken vessel Toria continued today. The boat was carrying 26 people when it was run aground on Ruapuki Island on Friday after striking a rock and taking on water close by. The boat's insurer and owner have been working to salvage the boat since yesterday morning. Late this afternoon it remained semi-submerged close to the shore of Ruapuki Island with no visible oil slick. Conditions are reportedly calm and favourable. A former Southlander has come up with an invention which he says could revolutionise the boat industry. Barry Davies has invented a propeller system for boats which works above the waterline called a contrapel. The invention has been more than a decade in the making and he says it's cost several $1 million to create. With the help of local company Stabicraft, a boat has now been designed and built for the system. Mr. Davies says his invention doesn't have the drawbacks of a water jet or dangers of propellers.
This system allows us to propel a boat even at low speed efficiently now, but we don't have any exposed propellers, so it's much safer, much more environmentally friendly. It's safer for people in the water, it's safer for marine mammals, and it's safer for the environment. It won't cause damage to the seabed or the bottom of the river because there's no pressurised water stream.
So what are your hopes for the future of this invention?
What we hope to do is we hope to get a larger company involved in the marketing side of it, and somebody that can take over maybe larger manufacturing. But we'd like to start off in New Zealand by producing some units for the market, testing the market and getting our name out there.
New Zealanders who fought in the Malayan emergency and Borneo conflict will be recognised with a commemoration in Invercargill on Friday. Organised by the Malaya Veterans Association Southland branch, President Bill South says the ceremony coincides with Malaysian Independence Day.
To welcome the Malayan, the students, ex-servicemen that served in Malaya, commemoration would be very helpful for the students especially. Last year on our first seminar, we had about 30 people attend. This was very successful. The parade itself is very simple. We have an opening address by the chaplain. The flags are lowered and raised. The last post, and after the last post, the members will go forward, lay their properties on the cenotaph, and if we are fortunate enough, we will have a speaker, and then it will be dismissed. After that, we are invited to a meal at the Working Man's Club.
This will be the second year a commemoration has been held. Why did you decide to hold one here in Invercargill?
Because it is being celebrated now right throughout New Zealand, we believe there was a need for us to celebrate it in Invercargill, and also to make the Malayans that are in Invercargill welcome to Southland.
And that's it from news. Coming up in sport, highlights from the weekend's ITM clash between the Stags and Counties Manukau. Good night.